The overhead lights dimmed as Flight 447 prepared for departure. David Harper settled into seat 1 to see his 3-month-old daughter Emma cradled against his chest. At 42, he never imagined he'd be doing this alone. Sarah, his wife of 15 years, had passed away just 6 weeks after childbirth. A sudden aneurysm that no one saw coming. Now David was flying to his sister's home in Portland, hoping family could help him find his footing in this new, terrifying role of single father. Emma had been fussy all morning, but as the engines roared to life, she began to wail. Not just cry, but scream with the kind of intensity that only an infant can muster. David bounced her gently, checked her diaper, offered a bottle. Nothing worked. The businessman across the aisle shot him an irritated glance. A teenager too rose up, put in earbuds, turning up the volume. David felt his face flush with embarrassment and exhaustion. He'd been awake for 36 hours, surviving on coffee and the kindness of neighbors who barely knew him. "Come on, sweetheart," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Please, just for Daddy. Please calm down." But Emma only cried harder, her tiny face red and scrunched. Other passengers were beginning to stare. David wanted to disappear. He thought about Sarah, about how she would have known exactly what to do. She always did. He was just fumbling through the darkness, hoping not to break this precious little person who depended on him completely. Then he felt a gentle tap on his shoulder. He turned to see a woman, perhaps in her late 50s, with kind eyes and graying brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore a soft gray cardigan and had the bearing of someone who had lived through storms and come out stronger. "I'm Margaret," she said quietly, her voice barely audible over Emma's cries. "I raised 4 children on my own. May I try something?" David hesitated for only a moment before nodding. He was desperate, and something about this woman's calm presence made him trust her instantly. Margaret stood and gestured to her seat by the window. "Why don't you come sit here? Sometimes a change of scenery helps." David gathered Emma and moved to the window seat. Margaret sat beside them, and without asking permission, she gently placed her hand on Emma's tiny back. She began humming a low rhythmic melody that David didn't recognize. It was the kind of sound that seemed to come from somewhere deep and ancient, like a lullaby passed down through generations. Slowly, almost miraculously, Emma's cries began to soften. Her body relaxed slightly against David's chest. Margaret kept humming, her hand making small, circular motions on the baby's back. "You're doing fine, Margaret," whispered to David. "I can see it in the way you hold her. She knows she's loved." David felt tears prick his eyes. He hadn't realized how much he needed to hear that. "My husband passed when my youngest was just 2 months old," Margaret continued softly, her eyes on Emma. "Heart attack at 45. I thought I'd never survive it. But children have a way of pulling you forward when you think you can't take another step." Emma had gone quiet now, her eyes drooping. Margaret continued her gentle humming, and within minutes, the baby was asleep. David looked at this stranger who had become an angel in that moment, and found he couldn't speak. Margaret just smiled, a smile full of understanding and shared pain and hope. "The first year is the hardest," she said. "But one day you'll look back and realize you were stronger than you ever imagined." And she'd grow up knowing that her father loved her enough to keep going, even when the world felt impossible. They sat together in comfortable silence as the plane climbed through the clouds. Emma slept peacefully, and David finally allowed himself to close his eyes. When he woke an hour later, Margaret had returned to her original seat, but she'd left a note tucked into the seat pocket. It simply read, "You're not alone. We're all just walking each other home. God bless you both. Margaret." David carefully folded the note and put it in his wallet, knowing he would keep it forever. Sometimes grace arrives in the most unexpected ways. Through the kindness of strangers who understand that we all need help carrying our burdens. That day, 30,000 feet above the earth, David learned that asking for help wasn't weakness. It was the first step toward healing. If this story touched your heart, please like, share. Subscribe for more stories about the unexpected moments of kindness that remind us we're all connected. Leave a comment below, sharing your own story of when a stranger became an angel in your life.